Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a different video than what I normally do, and I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favourite jump scares of all time. Now, the reason I wanted to do this video was to point out that jump scares can actually be used really effectively when they're done well, but there are so many times when they aren't done well and they're just kind of been seen as a cliche now. Which is a shame, because I think with these 10 examples, and there's probably a few others too, it really shows that they can be done well when in the right hands and handled well. I'll be doing my best to point out what I think makes them a good jump scare. My notes that I've got here go on forever, so I'm going to be I'll try and make it brief for each one because I don't want to have to ramble on too much. And I'll show you a clip of the jump scare each time too, so there you go, you've been warned. Now at number 10, we have a jump scare from a movie called It Follows, which came out in 2014. This scene is when the entity, what did we call it, STT demon, disguises itself as a really tall man with no eyes. Only Jay can see what's happening, and that makes it a lot more terrifying as she's with her friends, but only she can see it and her friends can't see anything. And the sound that occurs when the tall man comes through the door is creepy as shit.
Don't open the door.
See? Everything's okay.
What are you doing?
One of my favourite parts about this jump scare is that you can actually see him coming for quite a while. It's not like, you know, he just pops up out of nowhere. He's walking towards the door, which is where the camera is sitting, and it still gets you, which I think is really clever. Number 9, we have the infamous scare from the very end of the 1976 horror classic Carrie. The build-up shows that something is off. There's almost like Vaseline smeared over the lens, one of the cars is driving backwards, it's in kind of slow motion, and then all of a sudden you see this really black sky, and before you can really figure out what's going on, Carrie's bloody arm reaches out of the grave and tries to pull Sue Snell back down with her. Now, it is only a dream, but it actually works really well for me, because a lot of the time when, you know, jump scares are only dreams, it's just to be scary, whereas this shows that our surviving characters are going to be traumatized this for years upon years on end, and I think it's a perfect way to end the movie. At number 8, we have the sloth scene from David Fincher's horror crime classic, Seven. Now, this movie contains multiple horrific scenes, but the sloth victim for me is the most jump scare scene. This is the scene from that movie, aside from the ending, but that's not really a jump scare. The setup is nasty. This supposedly dead guy is sitting there in his bed, and he is mangled as fuck. His hand is in a jar, his veins are all sticking out, his warts all over him. And it's not surprising that we all jumped back in our seats when he all of a sudden started to cough and convulse.
He's laughing at us. You got what you deserved.
He's alive! He's alive! Trucker's alive! Look out, breathe! Hands down! Emergency on that!
It isn't really the kind of thing you see coming in the slightest, and I think it's a really clever jump scare. At number 7, we have the demon in the dining room from Insidious in 2010. Most James Bond movies have some kind of jump scares, but I think one of the most effective scares is when the demon appears behind Patrick Wilson's head in the dining room. It's coming off a lengthy monologue about this woman that saw the demon in a dream, as though the scene is just about to end, and it's like, you know, all coming to a close and stuff. It's broad daylight, there's people around, it gives a really good false sense of security. But then all of a sudden, this demon appears behind Patrick Wilson's head, just out of nowhere, which is really shocking because his back is facing the wall. You don't expect something to come up from, like, you know, the small gap between the chair and the wall, especially in broad daylight.
I can still hear that voice.
To me, Insidious is one of the scariest movies I think I've ever seen, and it is a damn near perfect horror movie. And it has so many good scenes, but this is the one that sticks out to me the most. At number 6, we have the lawnmower scene from Sinister, released in 2012. This is another movie that I would probably more than likely put in my top 5 scariest movies I've ever seen. And it's renowned for its jump scares and its really good use of them. But the one I had to go for was the lawnmower scene. The audience's anticipation from the Super 8 footage, it's just the lawnmower going across the ground, and the noise that happens when you see a person there is horrifying. Absolutely petrifying. I don't even think I can talk about this scene. Just have a look at it. God. At number 5, we have the scene when Bathsheba is sitting on the closet in The Conjuring. So this is our second run of James Wan for today, and I think this one is a slightly more effective jump scare. There's a bunch of supernatural happenings that precede this scare, just weird things just going on. You've probably seen The Conjuring, but so you know what I mean. You're wondering who or what is orchestrating everything while these things are moving around and why the clocks are stopping and yada yada yada. And the older sister wakes up to see her young sister repeatedly walk headfirst into the closet doors. And that's creepy enough because I find sleepwalking very, very scary. And once the older sister puts her younger sister back to bed, she goes and checks out the closet. And this happens. It is a bone-chilling moment that nobody can deny. It left them shivering in their seats when they first saw it. It is really, really good. Now at number 4, we have a scene that actually made 16-year-old me sprint from the TV when it first happened. And it comes from the director's cut of The Exorcist, released in 1973, and it is the infamous spider walk scene. Reagan's mother is downstairs after learning the news of Burke Denning's death, and she's just chatting with someone about it. And as the scene seems to be coming to a head, she turns around and sees her daughter walking upside down on her back, puking blood out of her mouth. Jesus. I think the reason this one actually scared me so much is because in the theatrical cut, after Reagan's mum finishes talking, she finishes talking about Burke Denning's death and the scene just cuts, goes to the next scene, but this one just lingered a little longer, and then that happened. Now, at number 3, for the only M. Night Shyamalan movie to appear on my list, we have the birthday party scene from Signs. Signs is another one of those movies that really just creeps me out, and this scene in particular never fails to chill me. Watching the TV, Joker Phoenix sees a news report saying that a video has been sent to the local news station from Brazil, and that all initial reports are that this is genuine and not a hoax. With this information, we just end up glued to the screen, just in general, and we're just waiting for something to happen. It's really creepy. The kids are all bunched up against the window, the trees are moving, the kids are squealing and screaming, and then all of a sudden, the alien just runs past the camera shot. Or, not even runs, he kind of just walks past.
Move, children! Vámonos!
Está atrás de garage! Está atrás de ahí! It's behind!
The sight of the alien is so creepy. Like, paired with James Newton Howard's score, it is just bone-chilling. And I think why this works so well too is in the context of this movie, we aren't really sure what's happening. There's some weird stuff going on. Like, you know, you're thinking, oh, wait, what is going on? And then you see that video and you're like, oh, okay, so it's not just this isolated farm that's being affected. This is the whole world that could be coming to an end. It's really harrowing and it's such a good scare. Now, at number 2, we have an absolutely amazing movie, one of my all-time favorite movies, and it isn't really a horror movie, and that is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. If you've seen this movie, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. It's the diner scene, when this guy goes behind the diner and... Yeah. Now, I've written like a fucking essay of notes here about what's going on with the diner and shit like that, but I'm not gonna go through it all. I feel like it's too daunting to try analyze this movie, but basically I think it's really cool that this happens about 10 minutes into the movie. You're not sure of who these people are, you're not sure what they're doing there. The way this guy describes shit is just so dreamlike, and the way everything looks is very dreamlike. The way the camera never specifically focuses on anything. All the background people there are basically just bodies. They barely move. They barely do anything. And he's describing his dream and he's like, hey, you were standing right in that specific spot in my dream. And then about, you know, a couple of minutes later, his friend is standing in that specific spot in his dream, and he's just like, oh shit, I'm still dreaming. And basically, David Lynch walks you over to the jump scare out behind the diner in broad daylight. He's already told you what's going to happen with the conversation. He already told you what's going to be out there. And it's still managed to be one of the most terrifying scenes that, like, oh my god, I will never forget first watching it. Never in my life. And for my number 1 pick for my favorite jump scare of all time, you probably saw it coming, but whatever, it is the hospital hallway scene from The Exorcist 3. Now, everything about this one just hits the spot. It's not like, you know, one of my all-time favorite horror movies, although I do still really enjoy it, but I do think that this scene is a perfect horror sequence, and I'm just going to go off a bit of a list out of why I think it works so well. Number 1 is that it's a 4.5 minute build-up. It's such a long build-up that the audience is lured into believing that there is going to be no scare. Number 2, there is a false jump scare halfway through the build-up, relieving the audience of what they believe is going to be all tension. This helps as the audience is fully relaxed by the time the actual jump scare occurs. The combination of the false jump scare plus the sheer length achieves this. Number 3, there are other people present for the majority of the scene too, giving the audience a false sense of security, making them think that nothing will happen. Number 4, it's a long shot too. This is down the end of a hallway that this happens. Most jump scares happen at a close-up, or at very least like kind of a mid-shot, until a very, very quick surprising crash zoom happens at the very end. Number 5, the old lady comes out of a room that the nurse has already checked and locked up. Again, giving us a false sense of security as the audience is not expecting the scare to come from that direction. Number 6, the scare comes from the side too, instead of front on. This is so unique, and it's just so shocking to see something so scary going across the screen instead of towards the camera. Number 7, the lack of gore in this scene and the implications of what happened really helps stick with the audience long after the scene is over. It'll be festering in their head as to what actually happened to the nurse and what she would have looked like after she died. And number 8 is the context of the film and when this actually happened. It's quite late into the film's runtime, and it's the first time we actually see someone getting murdered. We see some bodies and someone just before they die, but this is actually the first time we see someone carrying out the act. And what is revealed later on about how this is happening and what's going on is really, really, really cool and creative, and I think it's just fantastic. This is such a well-crafted scare for all the reasons I just listed above, and it's why it got me so much, especially on my first viewing. Alright, thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favourite jump scares are down in the comments if you feel like it, or don't, I don't care. And I'll see you all later. Bye.